If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. That's what we're told. So when a bike shows up with a spec sheet to rival bikes like the KTM 890 Adventure R and Yamaha Ténéré 700, but for a fraction of the price, you might raise an eyebrow. The CFMOTO 800 MTX has been making waves for that exact reason. The off-road checklist. When it comes to real adventure riding, the details matter. That's why we're starting with the off-road checklist, the core features that separate a capable middleweight from a pretender. The CFMOTO 800 MTX comes with a spec sheet that looks right at home next to the segment leaders. But numbers only tell half the story. Let's see what they actually mean. A proper off-road machine needs a few basics. A low center of gravity, real suspension travel, and the right wheel setup. The 800 MTX's low-slung fuel tank keeps the weight centralized, making the bike more stable and easier to handle in slow, technical sections. This design choice means less fatigue for the rider and more confidence when the trail gets rough. Suspension is just as critical. The 800 MTX is equipped with a 48mm U-on fork up front and a matching rear shock, both offering 230mm of fully adjustable travel. That's not just a nice-to-have. It's essential for soaking up hits from rocks, roots, and unexpected drops. Riders can tweak the suspension for their weight, riding style, and terrain, which is something you usually only see on higher-end models. Ground clearance comes in at 240mm, giving you room to clear most trail obstacles without drama. Then there's the wheel setup, a 21-inch front and 18-inch rear. This is the gold standard for adventure bikes that actually go off-road. The larger front wheel helps the bike roll over rocks, ruts, and debris, while the rear keeps traction steady. As one rider put it, the 21-inch front rolls over rocks like a bigger bike, making tricky terrain less intimidating. These features work together on the trail. Feedback from riders who've put the 800 MTX through its paces mention how planted it feels picking through loose rock, and how composed it stays on faster, choppier ground. The steering damper helps keep the front end steady when things get loose, and the combination of the low tank, suspension, and wheel setup makes a 220-kilogram machine feel lighter than it should. Of course, specs and first impressions only go so far. There's still plenty of skepticism, especially about what's under the surface. Some riders wonder if this is just another imitation, or if the 800 MTX can actually stand up to real-world abuse. The doubts don't stop here. Debunking the myths. Questions about the 800 MTX's authenticity are everywhere. The adventure segment is tough, and skepticism is common, especially with Chinese-made bikes. People want to know, are the parts up to the job? Does the engine have staying power? Will the brakes and suspension actually last? Riders naturally wonder if cost-cutting compromises performance. These doubts zero in on the engine, the brakes, and the suspension. Three areas where the 800 MTX has a lot to prove. Let's start at the core. The engine. The 800 MTX uses the KTM-derived 799cc LC 8C parallel twin, the same platform found in the KTM 790 Adventure. KTM's original 790 had a reputation for cam failures, raising concerns about long-term reliability. But CFMOTO didn't just copy the design. They reworked the head and the lubrication system, targeting the weak points that caused issues before. Online searches reveal virtually no documented failures of CFMOTO's reworked LC8C head and oil pump, suggesting these changes have paid off. The result is a proven engine with 94 horsepower and a strong torque curve, tuned for low-end punch and predictable usable power. Double balancer shafts keep vibrations down, so the ride stays smooth even when the pace picks up. Moving to the brakes, J-Huan is the name on the calipers. At first glance, it might not carry the instant recognition of some brands, but J-Huan has been building brakes since the 1940s. Their systems show up in Moto 3 and World Superbike, and since 2021, they've been part of Brembo, the top name in braking. The hardware on the 800 MTX benefits from decades of racing pedigree and proven performance. Suspension is handled by Yuan, a Chinese supplier with a long track record. They've been in the business since 1986, supplying not just CFMOTO, but also Yamaha, Suzuki, and even Cove's 450 rally bike, which is designed for punishing rally conditions. The 800 MTX's 48mm fully adjustable USD fork and matching rear shock, both with 230mm of travel, hold up well across rough terrain. The setup is on the stiffer side, which helps when the trail gets technical, and the adjustability means you can dial it in for your weight and riding style. In short, these aren't backyard components. They're battle-tested by World Superbike and Dakar-level suppliers. The spec sheet is only part of the story, though. To really see what the 800 MTX can do, it needs a test that goes beyond numbers and reputations. The Gauntlet, Romaniacs. For a real test, the 800 MTX was tested at the Red Bull Romaniacs, specifically the Adventure Class Light and Ultimate courses in the Carpathian Mountains. This isn't a marketing exercise or a gentle off-road loop. The Romaniacs is known for exposing weaknesses in even the most expensive bikes. The terrain is relentless, with rocky climbs, muddy descents, river crossings, and technical sections that demand everything from both rider and machine. Most bikes don't finish unscathed, so bringing the 800 MTX here wasn't just ambitious. It was a direct challenge to the idea that a lower-priced bike can't take real punishment. The bike faced everything from loose rock gardens to deep water crossings and long, steep downhills. In the ultimate sections, the course forced riders to pick their way over jagged ledges and through axle-deep mud. On paper, this is where you'd expect a new, budget-friendly adventure bike to come up short. Yet, time after time, the 800 MTX shrugged off obstacles others struggled with. The low-slung fuel tank kept the weight balanced, especially on uneven rock beds, letting riders stay in control during slow, technical moves. On the steepest descents, the 21-inch front wheel and steering damper worked together to keep the bike tracking straight, even when the ground tried to push it sideways. One rider, after a particularly nasty downhill, called out the front brake's one-finger control and lack of fade, a detail that stands out when your grip is the only thing keeping you upright. Suspension composure was another highlight. The Yuan system's 230mm of travel soaked up sharp hits and smoothed out rough stretches without harshness. Riders adjusted the clickers to match the day's conditions and found the bike stayed predictable, even when the pace picked up or the ground turned unpredictable. The engine's power delivery was just as important. Torque came on low and steady, making it easier to crawl up loose climbs without spinning the rear tire or stalling out halfway up. Every feature that looked good on a spec sheet got a real-world workout. The 800 MTX didn't just survive. It kept pace with bikes costing much more, and in some cases outlasted them. But surviving Romaniacs is only one part of the equation. There's another factor that matters just as much: what you get for your money. The knockout punch. Price and value. The real test for any adventure bike isn't just how it performs in the wild, but whether the price matches what you actually get. This is where the 800 MTX lands its biggest punch. Priced at $14,990 right away in Australia, it comes in well below the segment's heavy hitters. For comparison, the KTM 890 Adventure R sits at $27,295, the Aprilia Tuareg 660 at $23,540, and the Yamaha Ténéré 700 at $21,299. In Europe, the difference is just as stark. The 800 MTX is around €9,000, while a KTM 890 Adventure R can top €16,000. That's not a small gap. It's a direct challenge to the way things have always been priced in the middleweight adventure market. Usually, a big price difference means you're giving up something important. Riders expect a stripped-back spec sheet, basic electronics, or cheaper materials. But the 800 MTX turns that expectation on its head. It comes loaded. A 7-inch TFT display, cornering ABS, traction control, and a quick shifter are all standard. Cruise control, a steering damper, and a 22.5-liter fuel tank round out the list. These features aren't just nice-to-haves. They're the kind of extras you'd pay a premium for on other bikes. In fact, for the price of a single KTM electronic upgrade pack, you get a fully loaded 800 MTX with all the tech included from the start. Stack it up against the competition, and the value becomes even clearer. The KTM 890 Adventure R, while a top performer, doesn't include cornering ABS as standard, and asks nearly double the price. The Ténéré 700, often praised for its simplicity, skips most of the high-end electronics and still costs thousands more. Even the Aprilia Tuareg 660 struggles to match the feature set for the money. CFMOTO's pricing isn't just aggressive, it's designed to pull riders away from established brands and make them question what they're really paying for. There's always the question of compromise. Does a lower price mean cut corners? The 800 MTX makes a strong case that it doesn't. The 3-year warranty adds peace of mind, and the KTM-based engine platform lends credibility. CFMOTO is betting that a well-equipped, reliable bike at this price will upend old assumptions about budget adventure bikes. With all that on the table, the numbers are hard to ignore. The 800 MTX isn't just another option, it's a statement. But numbers and features are only part of the story. The verdict. Let's get to the verdict. The 800 MTX has shown it can handle technical rocky trails. It's also stayed composed on fast dirt sections. That low-slung fuel tank and well-tuned suspension gave riders confidence in rough ground, while paved roads revealed a bike that is steady and comfortable for long touring days. The bike's versatility stands out. It moves easily between off-road and highway, and it's ready for whatever comes next. Skepticism about Chinese bikes isn't new. Riders once pointed to rough plastics and inconsistent throttle mapping as reasons to steer clear. The 800 MTX addresses both. The plastics are solid and well-finished. The throttle response is smooth, with previous snatchiness now barely noticeable. Reviewers have called the build quality pretty top-notch, and the improved throttle mapping means the bike delivers power predictably, even in tricky conditions. These are not small changes. They show CFMOTO listened to feedback and made real improvements. Component choices also raised questions. Jihuan brakes and Yuan suspension might not have the same name recognition as top-tier brands, but their performance in testing has been strong. Jihuan, now part of Brembo, brings racing experience. Yuan supplies components to Yamaha and Suzuki, and the suspension on the 800 MTX is adjustable and reliable. The KTM-based LC8C engine, with CFMOTO's reworked head and oil system, has so far proven robust, with no documented failures in the field. These details show that CFMOTO isn't just cutting costs, they're building a bike that can last. The 800 MTX isn't just about what's on the spec sheet, it's about changing expectations. With a 3-year warranty and a growing global dealer network, CFMOTO is backing up the bike with real support. One reviewer summed it up. The 800 MTX redefines what we should expect from a middleweight adventure bike. The bike's combination of performance, features, and price puts it in direct competition with the class leaders, and in some cases, it matches or exceeds them at a much lower cost. Would I buy it? For the price, the 800 MTX doesn't just compete, it opens the adventure market to more riders. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than many expected. If you've tried a CFMOTO, or if you ride adventure bikes, share your experience in the comments. Your feedback helps others decide if this bike is right for them. There's a bigger shift happening in the adventure segment. The 800 MTX shows that premium performance doesn't always come with a premium price tag. By offering Bosch cornering ABS, switchable traction control, and a capable chassis at $14,990 right away, CFMOTO has set a new benchmark for what's possible in the middleweight adventure class. It's not just another budget option. It's a real disruptor that challenges established brands and makes adventure riding more accessible. If you've enjoyed debunking these myths and seeing the 800 MTX in action, hit like and subscribe. And next time a spec sheet seems too good to be true, remember the 800 MTX and rethink what's possible.